case we have a man joining us, we always have the occasional man once in a while. Welcome back to day two of the 7-day Tap On Weight Loss Challenge. I am so excited to be here. I love teaching this stuff. You know, believe it or not, there's a lot of work that goes into this, but I get on a real high after I'm done with these lessons. So I had a hard time sleeping last night, but it's so great to be back. So yesterday we talked about the weight loss blockers, and you learned how memories, specifically negative memories from childhood, or even just negative memories from your past, cause you to sabotage your weight now in the future today. And that's why it's difficult for you to stick to a diet. So for those of you that were here over there yesterday, will you type in the chat box what your biggest aha moment was? I know there's a lot of people that had a lot of aha moments. I actually had a moment. I sat down and I read all of the comments in the chat box, and I was just blown away. I was so grateful that I was able to with so many women and so many people, so many aha moments. And thank you everybody for chiming in. Today on the agenda, what we're going to learn is I'm going to try to actually make today's class a little bit shorter than yesterday's, because I know 7 days is a lot of time to commit, and I want you to come, I want you to get good nuggets, and then I want you to be able to move on today. So today, I'm going to teach you how positive memories are actually driving your cravings as well. So yesterday we worked on how negative memories and negative experiences are causing you to crave food when you're not really hungry. And today you're going to understand how positive memories are causing you to crave food when you're not really hungry. Okay. So what we're going to do is first, I want to talk to you guys about the difference between cravings and emotional eating. So it's imperative that you understand the difference, because in my work for the Clean Your Plate autopilot program, for the self-sabotage you can't make me autopilot program, for the pre-verbal autopilot program, for all of those autopilot programs, which we call weight loss blockers, for all of those weight loss blockers, we have a completely different technique. And so we have a different technique for cravings, and we have a different technique for emotional eating. And so it's really important that you understand the difference. Okay. So we're going to talk about that right now. And then in a minute, I'm going to walk everybody through an exercise where you're going to figure out what your good reasons are that you're craving certain foods and what positive memories that they're connected to. Okay. So first we have to distinguish the difference between cravings and emotional eating. So emotional eating typically will hit you like all of a sudden. So like all of a sudden you'll be like, I need to eat something. And usually the way you can tell is kind of any food will do in that moment. You don't have a craving for something specific. It's like you go to the kitchen and you'll just eat everything in sight. And maybe it's just, you'll polish off a bag of potato chips because it's just there. They're not necessarily your favorite, but they're crunchy and it's, doing the trick, and they're salty. It could still be junky food. But I remember for me, this is always the example that I give, anybody who's like a chronic dieter knows the experience of not keeping certain foods in their house so you won't eat them. So I remember I used to have like empty cupboards, so I wouldn't be triggered to eat anything. And I got triggered to eat emotionally, and I went into the cupboard and all I had was a cold can of beans, and I was eating those can of beans. Like I was determined to get those down. So so that's kind of how you know. So you still might crave junky food. So like if there's ice cream or if there's cookies in the house, you still might eat those things, but it's not necessarily craving for something specific. Whereas when cravings hit, cravings are for something in particular, like a certain type of ice cream, a certain type of chocolate, a certain type of dessert. And here's how you know it's a craving. You will go way out of your way to go get that thing. Like you will get out of your bed, you will get out of your pajamas, and you will go down, you'll get in your car and you'll drive to the store to get that one thing, like Snickers bar, or, you'll drive an extra 30 minutes out of your way to go get that, special yogurt with the toppings. It's a feeling like I have to have this certain thing. One of my cravings used to be Diet Coke. And it's like, when I had a craving for Diet Coke, there was nothing that would fill that need, that desire, other than Diet Coke. Okay. So even if you try to eat other things, you're still going to be craving that one particular food, if that makes sense. Okay. So I just want you to understand, Jennifer says, oh, God, I love Diet Coke. Okay. So, what's wrong with Diet Coke? Well, there's a lot of chemicals in Diet Coke. I still drink it from time to time. I'm not hating on Diet Coke, but I tried not to drink it because my grandma just drank so much of it and she ended up dying of Alzheimer's. And so I just feel like there was something connected there. Moderation. Exactly, Roberta. Okay. So do you guys understand the difference between cravings and emotional eating? Let me know if you understand that, if that makes sense, if you've had that experience. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, great. This explains why I eat. Oh my gosh, you guys are making comments about this. This explains why I want to eat, but I don't know what to eat. Exactly, Julie. Okay. So usually, so this is what happens. Emotional eating is typically an away from experience. Okay. So we're typically trying to get away from stressful feelings, away from a negative feeling, away from a negative experience. Whereas cravings, we're trying to move towards a positive feeling. Okay. So this analogy also works for alcohol. Okay. Some people drink to get away from stress, and some people drink to get closer to happy memories. Okay. And so let's just dive into the exercise so that you understand what you're craving and why you're craving and what it's connected to. Okay. So I want everybody right now to think about a food that you cannot keep in the house. Okay. So these are the foods that, and some people, oh, by the way, thanks Mary for bringing that up. Some people only crave, some people don't have specific food cravings. It's rare. Most people do, but I would say about 10% of people are just emotional eaters. Okay. So you just eat when you're not really hungry. You just eat to fill a void. You don't necessarily have anything that you really crave. Okay. Sometimes people say, well, I just crave sugar. That's not necessarily a craving. That's usually going to be emotional eating because you're usually trying to get away from a stressful feeling and you're using the sugar to calm you down. Okay. So what I want everybody to do, I'm going to walk you through this exercise. Okay. I want you to think about a food that you cannot keep in the house. And I want you to tell me what the food is in the chat box here. So, okay. Bread. That's perfect. Peanut butter, donuts, chips, Oreos, potato chips, blueberry muffins, chocolate, donuts. Okay. Ah! I love this chat box. It's going crazy. Cheesecake. Okay, great. You guys have the idea. So I want you to think about this food and I want you to think about your earliest memories of eating this food. Or who did you used to eat this food with? So 9 times out of 10, most people will come up with some sort of memory from their childhood that, like every Sunday, Dad would take me out to have ice cream, or on Friday nights, we got to invite all of our friends over and have pizza, or, Grandma and I would bake cookies every time I would go to her house, or, I used to steal this certain type of candy from my grandpa's drawer, or, that was the thing that we would, he would give me these candies. They were his favorite candies. Okay. So think about your earliest memories of eating this food. Okay. And then type it in the chat box. So now what happens is your brain remembers this experience. So usually this experience was good. It was positive. So I'll use myself as an example. For me, it was cookies. Chocolate chip cookies was like my thing. And I remember, and the thing that that was connected to for me was my grandmother. My grandmother and I used to bake chocolate chip cookies together. And she was she was a very loving, nurturing person in my life when I was growing up. And so every time I would need some love or comfort, or I would want to feel grandma's love, or I would be stressed out because of stuff happening at home, or, I think I told everybody that I was homeless and I was kicked out when I was 15. So I would crave the comfort of cookies because it subconsciously reminded me of my grandma's love. Okay. So that is what happens. Your brain acts like a filing cabinet. So let's say this is grandma's love and this is cookies. Okay. So what happens when we, as emotional eaters or people who are struggling with our weight, or when there's foods that you just can't keep in the house and you can't control yourself around it, what happens is your brain has filed cookies with grandma's love. So that's why you can eat so many cookies. I could eat the entire box of cookies and more until my stomach would literally not be able to handle more. Because if you think about it, you can never get enough of mom's love or grandma's love. You can never get enough of those positive, happy feelings from childhood. So when, you've had a hard day, when you've had, something stressful happen, when you're a little bit like, maybe you're lonely, maybe you've got the abandonment weight loss blocker coming up, the abandonment program coming up, what you do is you unconsciously crave this food as a way to soothe and nurture yourself. Okay, so Nicole says, I used to bake muffins and brownies with mom and dad. McDonald's with the family. Okay, TT, is that something that you still eat? You still go to McDonald's? Jan says ice cream. Dad would bring it home from work. Fried chicken. Okay, so is this making sense? Can you see now how your positive memories from your past are causing you to crave this food, and it's uncontrollable? Like that is why you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? And it'll be totally unconscious. You'll just look down and all the chips will be eaten out of the bag, or the popcorn will be gone, or the entire chocolate bar will be gone, and you won't even remember eating it because you have this autopilot program going that's saying, give me more of grandma's love, give me more of mom's love, give me more of dad's attention, give me more of my sister's soothing relaxation, whatever it is. So I'll also give you another example of how this can happen as an adult. I had a client who, what are those things called? Macaroons. She went on her honeymoon to France. And when we first started working together, she had been married for 4 or 5 years, and she had a couple kids. And, before that she was always healthy. She's like, gosh, I've always been able to stay in shape. But I just cannot stop eating these macaroons, and it's really like killing my diet. And so I asked her about it. I said, okay, well, when was the first time you had macaroons? And she said, well, it was on my honeymoon. And her honeymoon, she was in her, 20s or 30s when she got married. And so on her honeymoon was such a great experience for her that she connected those feelings of being free, of being newly married, being super in love, to macaroons. And so now when reality hits and she's at home and she's got 2 kids and they're crying and stressed out and freaking out, she's eating macaroons like it's nobody's business, because all she wants to do is go back and remember those positive feelings. Okay, I'll give you another example of how this works out. I, with my ex-husband, moved to a very small town in Spain, I don't know, like 6 or 7 years ago. And we moved there for him to play football, and I was on board with it. But when I got there, I realized what a small town it was, and it wasn't really my kind of city. He was really happy because he was playing football, but I wasn't. And so we lived in this building that had this bar down below it. And I'm not a big bar fly or drinker or anything like that, but I found myself every night going down and having drinks at this bar while he was at football practice. And I found myself finishing off a bottle of wine every night. And I'm like, okay, after 2 weeks of this, I'm like, hold up, this is not me. This is not who I am. And by the way, the alcohol content in Spain was less. So I wasn't getting drunk, but it was just to finish a whole bottle of wine every night for a few weeks. I'm like, okay, there's a problem here. So when I inquired and I asked myself what I was doing and what happened, what I realized is that I was actually craving my girlfriends. and I was craving the comfort of being at home with my friends. And we used to go out and we used to drink wine and we used to have fun together. And here I was in this little town in Spain. I knew nobody. I was at this bar by myself, sitting there drinking wine. And what I was doing is I was subconsciously trying to bring back those fun, positive memories of being with my good girlfriends. Okay. So can you see how these positive memories from your childhood, this will always sabotage your weight loss. This will always sabotage any diet because we deal with so much stress. And if your brain has this information, this filing cabinet, that wine equals girlfriend love, you're going to keep drinking girlfriend love. You're going to keep having that girlfriend love anytime that you need it. And who doesn't need a lot of girlfriend love, right? But with the technique that you guys are going to learn and that we're going to start doing in this program, what we're able to do is rewire it and give your brain new information that this belongs in the wine filing cabinet and this belongs in the girlfriend fun love filing cabinet, or this is the cookies cabinet, this is grandma's love cabinet. And so what ends up happening is that you can have a few squares of chocolate, you can have a glass or two of wine, you can have, a handful of chips or a few scoops of chocolate, of ice cream. Maybe, you won't even want a full donut. You'll just have half a donut. So what's so cool about this is that we literally just do it one time and the craving doesn't come back. Okay. And that's because I have developed my own unique method to overcome food cravings. It's 10 times stronger than regular EFT tapping for cravings. I call it the ball of light technique, and we're going to do it tomorrow together. So I want everybody to take a note. Well, you already know. I want everybody, this is your homework tonight, is I want you to go out and buy that food that you can't keep in the house for tomorrow. Okay. You're going to bring it to the call tomorrow and we're going to tap through it. I would also like to take a couple participants. I'd like to actually work with a few of you. So if you think that you are the type of person who would like to work with me and you want to be on screen and on camera, make sure you have good lighting, that you have a computer, you're not on your cell phone. Because we're going to be working through this craving tomorrow. Okay. But before we do that, before we go there, I want to actually explain a little bit more about how I want to explain the brain science of what's going on in your brain. And I'm sure there's a more techie way to do this, but this is all I got. Okay. So yesterday you learned that your brain has an area. Well, you didn't learn this yesterday. So your brain has an area in it called the hippocampus, and it's where your memories are stored. It actually looks like, whatever. It actually looks like a sponge, and it's this circular area of the brain, and it's got all these little spots on it. It's got these little indentations. Okay. So this is called the hippocampus. And the indentations with brain imaging devices, we can go in and we can see that when the memory is negative, there's actually a little imprint in the brain, the hippocampus. Okay. And so what happens is when you are in a situation that is reminding you of something bad that happened that made an imprint, right? We use this word a lot. That really made an impact on me, an imprint on me. It actually does. It makes an imprint in our brains. So what ends up happening is say your boss has the same tone as your stepdad. Your new boss somehow, when he is giving his presentation every morning at work, he has this tone in his voice that you just you don't know why you hate your new boss, but you just hate your new boss. Or there's something that's just driving you crazy and you go home and you eat and eat and eat. I think I explained a lot of this yesterday, the weight loss blockers, different ways that you can get triggered or different reasons that you're overeating, different ways that you sabotage yourself. So what happens is something in here gets triggered, okay? And it sends a signal to the amygdala, which is your body's fight or flight response. This is fight, flight, or freeze, okay? So you've heard this before. This is danger, 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 okay? So this is what makes you feel stressed. This is what makes you feel like you need to yell. This is what makes you feel overwhelmed. This is what makes you feel feelings that other than calm and tranquility. So, because our life is filled with this stuff, the best way to turn this off is, I don't know if this is gonna look, oh, it's backwards. Food. The best way to turn this stressful feeling off is food. And so emotional eaters will eat as a way to calm their nerves and to calm their anxiety. Okay. Also, you learned yesterday that, if you have some sort of feeling like, oh, I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe, or if I release weight, nobody will like me, or, I won't fit in anymore, or, it's not safe for me to release this weight, something bad will happen. Okay. All of those things get triggered. And that's what happens in your brain. That is why your brain craves food as a way to soothe itself. Okay. Because there's literally no better way. But this is what's so cool about tapping. So tapping is backed by 30 years of research. Mine will be scientific. My unique method will be scientifically researched at one point, but basically just think about 30 years of research. It's, it's clinically proven. My method is like that on steroids. Okay. So my shit works a lot faster than traditional tapping, and you're gonna learn that tomorrow. So what happens, this is so cool. This is what's so cool about tapping, is that when we tap, we think about, you'll see tomorrow, we'll have you think about these different memories and you'll feel the feeling. And then what happens is as you tap, the tapping sends a flood of serotonin to that part of the brain, and it cuts off this connection. It severs that connection. So there's no longer a fight or flight response. Okay. So you can remember that it happened, but you no longer have a reaction to it. Okay. So that's why it works so well. And that's why the results are so instant and so fast, because of how we're able to change the brain. I hope that makes sense. Okay, does anybody have any questions about, Julie, it can be like, it is a little bit like EMDR. It's actually not as, I don't find EMDR as powerful as this, but I mean, there's always a method for everything. Tapping for me is the most complete method, and my version of it, of course, because it's mine and I believe in it, and I found it to work where, especially for weight loss, but we use it for everything. The method that I use, you can use it for, we could use it for any kind of addiction. We could use it for, any kind of problem. The way that I like to use tapping and my kind of unique spin on it is to get to the root of it really quickly. Whereas regular tapping kind of taps on like the surface things, where like I just like to get to the core of it and pull it out by its roots so that we're done with it. Like I don't like to keep coming back to the same problem over and over again. Like, I don't know, it's kind of like ripping a Band-Aid off, right? Like, do you want to keep the Band-Aid on and keep the wound, like kind of raw and have to keep taking care of it? Or do you want to just rip the Band-Aid off and like let the wound heal and then be done with it? It's kind of like that. So, okay. I think that's it for today. Rip it off, Julie says. Awesome. We use tapping in my class to eliminate. Exactly. Yeah, you can use tapping for lots of different things. Let's see. Kim says, I have no specific memory or feeling connected to food that are dangerous for me. So how will the tapping for me work tomorrow if I can't associate a particular feeling or memory? Oh, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked, Kim. Okay. So like I said before, some people don't have positive memories with food, and that's totally okay. Remember I said that there's 7 weight loss blockers. Not everybody has all of them. So you might not have positive memories associated with food. You might just have negative memories associated with food. Okay. And so this is why with every different weight loss blocker, there's a completely unique, different tapping therapy, tapping treatment for that particular problem. And so Kim, for you, I would still come to tomorrow, because a lot of times people will suppress their positive memory. So you'll probably learn something tomorrow anyway. But day 4, we're going to talk about emotional eating. Okay. So if you have no specific memories associated with food, but you still eat when you're not hungry, then that means that you're an emotional eater and you probably don't have the cravings, but you might, because a lot of people suppress these kind of things. How does boredom cause triggers? Oh, that's a great question. So boredom can bring up just anxiety. A lot of times people need to stay busy. A lot of times people need to stay active, because when they're too still, all of the autopilot programs that we were talking about yesterday get a little bit louder. And one of the best ways to quiet those autopilot programs is to stay really busy and avoid them. Okay. So when people say, well, I just eat when I'm bored, that's not usually true. It's usually because you have these autopilot programs that are causing you anxiety, that are playing in the background, and they get a bit louder when things go quiet. Okay. So my guess is that when maybe you're all alone or you don't have something to do, that's the time that you would overeat, or that you would crave different foods. Okay. All right. So tomorrow, same time, meet me back here. Please have a food with you. Please have that craving food. So whatever food that you came up with today that you had the memory with, bring that food with you and think about if you would like to be a participant, and if you'd like to work with me. I think I'm going to try to work with 3 people at a time tomorrow. So we're going to be tapping on it. You're going to have an experience where if you've never done tapping before, or even if you have done tapping and you haven't done my tapping, this is going to blow your mind. And I'm so excited to share it with you. I can't wait to be here with you tomorrow. I can't wait to read your comments. Please give me a hell yeah or an aha if you learned something today in the chat. And aha, hell yeah, for sure. Cool. Want to work with you. Good. Well, keep coming, because you are working with me. This is what I teach, even with my private clients. This is what I teach. Hell yeah, for sure. Oh, good. I'm glad I got a hell yeah. Still feel like crying. Oh, Margaret, my work does bring up, this will be an emotional journey for you. And, there's something really cathartic and healing about emotions, and you are in a safe place. I am one of the most emotional people that you have probably ever met. And I find that emotional eaters are typically very, very sensitive and very emotional. And so I really, really know how to hold space for emotions. In fact, just a couple hours ago, I was on the phone with my boyfriend crying because I miss him. So there's nothing wrong with having emotions and feelings. And you will have those. You will have those as you go through this, and as you do the tapping, and as you have this experience, you will have emotions. But that means that you're on the right track. Okay, that means you're on the right track. If you don't want to come to these calls, if you're kind of avoiding it, if you feel a little bit scared, if you're trying to make excuses as to why not to come, it's because these techniques and the work that I'm doing and the information that I'm giving you is the right information, and it will work. And so your subconscious mind has this very tricky thing inside of it that knows that, number 1, my shit works. Number 2, this will actually fix the problem. And number 3, that if you fix the problem, you might not be safe. Okay, because remember yesterday, you have a lot of good reasons to hold on to this extra weight. And the subconscious mind still doesn't know that it's safe to release the weight yet. So don't be surprised if you find yourself talking yourself out of coming to these, or if you feel scared, if you feel emotional, if you feel overwhelmed. I have a lot of people who, before they join the program, or once they join the program, they'll be like, oh my God, Brittany, I just started eating everything in the house. And it's always because your unconscious mind knows that this is actually going to work. I had the exact same experience when I finally found somebody that pinpointed the exact reason that I was struggling with my weight. I had a session with him. I think it was like I booked it like 3 days out. I couldn't stop eating for 3 days. I literally ate myself sick for 3 days. And I'd never met this person before. I didn't know what he was going to say to me, but some part of me, my higher self, my unconscious mind, knew he had the answer, and he nailed it. He nailed it. And that was really the thing that opened me up. That was like, oh shit, this was my aha moment. This is the thing. So probably I'm nailing a few of your weight loss blockers. I'm nailing a few of the reasons that you're holding on to the extra weight. And so your unconscious mind, because its job is to keep you safe. Its job is to make sure that you never have to experience anything like you experienced in the past. Its job is to keep you protected. And so it thinks that if it heals these things, that you're going to be in danger again. And what's so cool and what's so beautiful about the techniques that I teach is that we can give your brain and your body permission to release the weight, to know that it's safe to be your healthy natural weight, not even your ideal weight. Your body wants to just be its natural weight, and your body knows how to be its natural weight. Your brain just keeps blocking it. Okay. So I promise I will take very good care of you through this process. You just please make the commitment to show up here and watch out for the part of you that will try to sabotage and come up with really good reasons not to come. Use that as a sign that you're on the right track, that you're about to have a big breakthrough, because that's always what happens. Always. All right. Thank you so much for being here today. I love sharing this information with you. My heart goes out to you. I can't wait to see you tomorrow. Don't forget to bring a food, because I want you to have an experience with this, and it will blow your mind. And and that's exactly what we're going to work on tomorrow. You're going to learn the technique. You're going to learn the ball of light technique, and we're going to actually go through it together. All right. Take care, everybody. Have a great